See?
Yeah, not gay at all, man.
I'm gonna. Morning, everybody. Welcome to Red Morning, the Carl and Ryan show where he hates the intro and my shirts. Meanwhile, he gives me nothing to make fun of him for. Hope you enjoyed your stay.
That
I don't know.
shirt is
How's it
actually
going,
kind of
Carl?
nice, though. That shirt is kind of nice, though.
Yeah, I like it. It's gonna replace my blue bicycle shirt. That one's. It's been a couple years, and I think it's about on this last end.
Yeah, well, the good thing is you can get one that actually fits you.
Have to now. I was telling you before that. Hey, Wando, I see your thing. I'll get to that one sec. It's because of the stupid lockdowns in Toronto. I haven't had a chance to have a workout since like January. I've been doing some running and a little bit of body weight stuff, but we finally managed to get. They have the power block, so we managed to get ourselves a set because they keep selling out because idiots keep buying them and then marking them up like 300% and selling, $50 weight for $1,000 or something stupid like that.
Yeah, well, at least if you have a weights and, well, some dumbbells, you can at least do some stuff with it.
Yeah, well, we have to. We only have like 800 square feet to work with, right?
Yeah, well, you could break into the basement.
I mean, I suppose we
Was there,
could.
like, a gym there?
There is, but that's the problem because of COVID. We're considered like a commercial building, so we've had it completely locked and chained up. Security
Just break
cameras, the
in.
whole business.
Yeah, well, you can hack the security cameras.
I'm sure. All I have to do is hack the security cameras, and it's like the Carl Sagan thing. How do you bake a pie? Well, first you create the universe. It's like, dude, if I have to do Mission Impossible to get to a workout, I think I'm just like I'd rather get fat. Fuck it.
Alphas do, man. Alphas do.
Alphas do, I'm sure. Alphas just bought some weights and then just did stuff in the house. But it's good, actually. Drew's that time under tension program that he's got, it's perfect for it. So I can use less weight, still get the same tension. But this episode really isn't about me. What did we call it
No,
again?
it's
I can't remember
apparently
what we
about
called
Sean
it.
Connery.
I don't know. Did he die?
Yeah, apparently. So
Oh,
rest in peace, Sean Connery.
oh man, that sucks. Should we
What did he
pay
do?
open paying homage to the recently deceased Sean Connery, original James Bond and XX century masculinity icon? I guess. Is there anything we can do that's not cringe other than, F's in the chat? I don't want to do this moment of silence thing. I'm actually kind of curious if anybody's going to be doing that shit.
Yeah, we can do that on Rule Zero.
Oh yeah, guys, so that's going to be on this channel today. And then I guess the title. I'm noticing with my new thumbnail styles, I'm getting more vague with the titles. So practical actions, not permission, or how did you put it? You said
Well, the whole thing is like you have two types of guys sliding into your DMs,
mm-hmm.
and one is the dude who's like, "Yeah, I got together with this girl, and I kind of want to wife her up, but she's a single mom. She has a tramp stamp. She has green lines all over her. She's tatted down. She was in porn. Is that okay with you?" And those guys are kind of like, you're asking permission to do what you really want, and you're putting the onus on someone else, and you're giving yourself someone else to blame if you fuck it up.
Pretty much. You
And
know,
then you have the other side where a guy is like, okay, listen up. I decided I'm going to wife up a single mom. She has 8 kids. I'm going to adopt all of them. She did do that one gangbang scene, and she has an OnlyFans, but I'm doing this shit. How do I go about practically solving it? What are some steps I can take to make this work?
the funny thing,
And
I don't think I've ever heard that second ever, but I've heard the first one.
well, I have one guy who did it, so let's be fair. They're fairly rare that a guy's like, you know what, I'm going to do some stupid shit. How do I minimize the damage?
Right.
Because at that point, you can give some practical advice. Have a prenuptial agreement, uh, put shit in the trusts. All those things.
Right.
And that actually helps the guy out a bit. But the first one is just cringe. It's like, how do you go about getting that guy over to at least being the practical side where he's making his own decision? And
Well,
then
yeah.
everything else is risk management.
Well, he's looking for a shepherd. That's just it. He doesn't want to take responsibility. He wants somebody to tell him what to do. He wants what dad did, but since mom left him, nobody's been telling him what to do his whole life. Now he's lost. Which is weird because as soon as the guy gets there, it seems that the decisions will always be worse. Like you don't even accidentally get guys who make good decisions. You know what I mean?
Well, you do have some guys who luck out by accident, but they're kind of rare.
Yeah, I would say so rare that I can't think of a single example right now. Other than maybe the
Yeah.
super attractive guy who happens to get laid, but that's not even an accident. That's just genetics.
Well, those guys are usually some of the ones who make the worst decisions. The guy who's kind of fallen into it his entire life, and suddenly he stops falling into it.
Right.
It's like everyone has that fantasy of their high school bully ending up working at the gas station in their little hometown, married to the cheerleader who got fat and he has 8 annoying kids. Essentially, the Al Bundy caricature of the school bully who peaked in high school. But in my experience, like those type of guys, they tend to kind of fall into a degree of success regardless of what they do.
Well,
But when that, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, we're kind of at a place right now where it's kind of hard not to have decent success. We've automated everything. You can't kill yourself. There's no longer like starting a business is ridiculously easy. Jobs are full until this year. They're kind of been flowing from the sky. But those are the same. But that's the thing. Like it's hard to fail. You have to actually actively work at failing now to fail. Oops.
And I think that might be the key to it, though. It's like if you never had to think about how to avoid failure, like if you never have to think about, oh, the lion might eat me,
Uh huh.
then how are you going to be suitable or trained to make those decisions? Because making good decisions isn't like something you're born with, and putting things into practical terms isn't necessarily something you're born with either.
Right.
So once you've gotten to that point, how do we take these guys from essentially ships, rudderless ships, and make them into speedboats? Because that was kind of the annoyance with like the essay I put out this week.
Right.
Or I wouldn't call it an essay; it was only like 1,000 words. But
To get off my
it's
lawn. I'm done with the red pill one.
oh, I didn't say that much, but it was more along the lines of if we're creating a dependency in guys by the methods we give them, and if
Right.
that's kind of the business model, isn't to yeah buy my book and get the fuck out. It's more along the lines of yeah, pay me a running consultancy fee to fix my shit, and that becomes more like the chicks who've been in therapy for 15 years and they're still batshit crazy. At that point, are you actually helping or hurting?
Which is true. Let me give you a counterpoint to this though. So I've known it from back in the Reddit days. There was guys who actually like did mathematical analysis on subreddits and that, and they talk about the churn. So for example, you know how like, everybody, all these red pillars are so angry, whatever. It turns out there's always like new people coming in that are always angry, and then by the time you remove your angriness, the guys are kind of over it and they kind of leave. They go do their own thing. So I'm wondering then, is it that we have a core group of guys who are becoming codependent on a parasocial relationship? Or is it the fact that there's attrition and a churn that we're going through? Now, from our perspective, we're always here. So we assume that the mob is one angry, codependent group of people when it could very well be a churning of people. And like I said, no offense to like Merc or Yuri, but to me, they're just what color is their Avi on YouTube, right? It's very easy to kind of muddle them all together.
Yeah, like you have a couple of guys you know who you recognize their name and you know they've been around for a while because
Yeah,
either they're constantly in your Twitter feed or they're constantly on here.
right.
So I do think there's a certain degree of that churn because like my ideal model of the red pill has everyone leave has a complete replacement of the audience every 6 months.
Yeah, like cast iron pans. Buy one and you're done for life.
But then on the other hand, you have that situation where I think there are a lot of guys who are just kind of passive lurkers. So they hang around everywhere, they catch all the content,
Right?
but they never put anything of it into work. But they feel like they're doing something because they're sitting around here reading all this shit.
Okay,
They're the
that
type of
yeah.
guy. the guy who knows Rollo's essays better than Rollo, who can quote like the Rational Male from memory.
Those ones I know. I've been seeing though. That's the thing though. Those guys, they kind of just, and that's the worst part. So as a content creator, you like having more attention on you. So their engagement is nice, but at the same time, you're right. If you just give them like a quick head shake, like, dude, what are you doing? When was the last time you talked to somebody? Usually it's enough to get there. But I don't think the incentives exist to take that guy from a passive consumer into whatever it is you're suggesting. I can't think of like a catchy way to put it.
Well, I always thought there was like a degree of the Hippocratic Oath to what we do here. First, do no harm.
Is there really though?
No,
Even
I've always
doctors
had
don't have
kept
a
that.
Hippocratic oath anymore. Not really. They have
True enough,
malpractice liability concerns.
but from my perspective, I always kept that as kind of like a foundational thing. That if you put something out,
Yeah.
at least make sure it's not going to fuck someone's life up. And that's why I've always kind of tried to skate away from giving like the most like other than like no-brainer advice about what people should do. I try to stick away from everything else, which is also why I try to avoid the consulting thing.
Right. Well,
And
that you
that's
got
just
better
because
money and less hassle on your side of things than going this way.
that's a good point.
Um,
But
I'm,
at
I'm,
least for me,
yeah, I'll disagree a
but
bit only because that was exactly the argument that Dr. Smith pulled on me for that she's not yours, it's just your turn thing. He always, and that's like flat out. For any time somebody wants to disagree with anything here that's useful, their first argument is they point to some bottom of the barrel retard and they go, "Look at this guy. He's going to take your advice and he's going to pull an Elliot Rodger." So, to be responsible, you should hedge it under so much hedging language that it basically loses all meaning. And I'm going, that's great because I have to worry about the lowest common denominator. I basically can't say anything of value. Is essentially the argument. So you know it's not really an argument. It's just a way of somebody saying shut up with some sophistication to it. Shut up and stick to
right,
the standard advice that doesn't work because then your ass is covered. Which
I
I
see
know
your
that's an
perspective
extreme
on that.
example of what you were saying, but that's why I don't ascribe to it as well as much as you do, I suppose.
No, I don't think I always have like the retard clause. That's another fundamental element,
Yeah.
and that is no matter what you invent, there's always going to be some idiot that fucks it up.
Oh, exactly.
Like you can like Alfred Nobel invented dynamite, and he didn't think about the fact that okay, retards are going to use this shit to wage war.
Which
So he
is
set
weird. You
up
think
all
that would have
the
been an obvious an obvious thing.
yeah, but it's idealism, I guess. But so you're always going to have some retard that takes things to the most extreme example of greenlining.
Yeah. Ooh, I
So
like that. That's
you
a
can't
phrase.
actually you can't actually uh, cater your advice to them.
Mm-hmm.
So think of a bell curve. So you
Right.
have like the people who are like the two lowest standard deviations.
Right.
They're always going to fuck your stuff up. And the
Always.
people who are at the two highest standard deviations are probably also going to fuck it up. So all you can do is kind of cater to the middle people, and then you take the top people and you try to slap them around a bit so they actually understand what they're doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then you let the bottom people die because, quite frankly, we do sort of need them chlorined out to the gene pool. It's
Then you're
it's
really
like
doing the Lord's work.
well, my perspective was always like, okay, the biggest ethics issue that I kind of see with doing this
Mm-hmm.
is that I think we could potentially get any guy laid
Right.
because it's an old buddy of mine used to say the question is not about getting pussy, it's a question of how low are you willing to sink in order to get pussy.
The slump
Because
busters.
there's always going to be like some total train wreck chick out there who'll fuck anything.
Right.
So, but is it ethical for those people to reproduce if nature has been, and nurture for that matter, has been so clear that, okay, this person needs to get out of the gene pool? It's like, I think it's nature's way of saying, this guy is just completely unfuckable because he's not supposed to contribute to the gene pool anymore.
Yeah,
It's
but I
like
mean, for
kind
the
of
most
sounds
part,
harsh.
girls do that anyway with their little ad hoc eugenics program. aka abortion pills, coat hangers, what have you. I'm perfectly happy to leave that up to them because most guys, it's not even about procreation or was it Roosh calls it fornication. It's just sport fucking, man. It's basically jerking
I,
off with a partner. A little bit
I
more
did hear
hormones
that there's
involved.
like, I did hear that with the new strict abortion laws in Poland, coat hanger sales are up by 100% overnight.
I have to believe, I don't know, like I said, the way the news put that, that's so repeal the 19th Amendment of a thing, then I'm like, there's no way they didn't exaggerate the shit out of it. I have a feeling if I actually looked into it, it'd probably make much more sense to me than some kind of return to patriarchy. I'm not buying it. I don't know. Is
I just
anybody in
don't
the
think you can.
chat Polish that can say?
I just don't think you can put that genie back into the box unless there is some kind of major disaster. And I'm not talking like a joke disaster like COVID. I'm talking like legit no rule of law.
Yeah, like they find out the chemical in the pill is killing chicks or something like that. And even then, actually, no, it'd have to be worse than that. People smoked knowing it would kill them. Self interest is a bitch.
No, I'm talking disaster like
Oh, like
something that kind of
population decline
forces you,
disaster.
yeah, something that forces you back into more of a tribal lifestyle. Because at that point, I can kind of see that you would return to traditional gender roles because those were kind of forced upon humanity throughout our existence and then bred into us over the course of however many generations.
Right?
But with modern technology, we've kind of liberated ourselves from those roles in a sense.
Yeah.
The
Oh no,
pill
not in a
is one
sense, in
thing,
just
but
flat out in all senses.
so you don't have to send the strongest man out on the hunt anymore because any chick can wield a 30-06.
All right, quick sidestep here. You guys are big on the Bond thing. Adriano Ramos with the $5 Australian super chat. What's your favorite Bond girl? For me, it's that redheaded Russian chick from, actually both the girls from GoldenEye.
And I like the I can't remember who that was. The chick that came out of the water. I think it was in Doctor No.
Oh, not Bridget Fonda. Bo Derek was it?
No, it's not Bo Derek. Oh fucking hell.
Jesus,
Let's see, Bond girls. I haven't watched Bond movies in ages, man.
me neither. Which is too bad. I used to like him, dude. I'm the only guy on Earth who's a Timothy Dalton fan, apparently. Yeah, that's the one. Are you sure that's not Bo Derek? But yeah, she had like the knife and stuff like that. I don't know who the hell she is. They just
Yeah,
keep
Honey
putting her on
Rider.
stupid lists.
Yeah, it's Ursula Andress.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Ursula, I love you, Ursula. There's a 10-year-old reference. All right, back to point. So you're right, 100%. Most of the inventions since the Industrial Revolution have been built to keep us from killing ourselves through our own stupidity. And now we're kind of reaping the success of that. I would make the case that a lot of these guys talking about going back to the way things used to be are idiots because you're right. We pretty much have to lose cell phones, frozen food, refrigerators, all that stuff for it to happen. And I don't think anybody is so mad at the sexual marketplace that they're willing to go back to clacking rocks against sticks and beating your clothes against a river.
I don't either, and I think a lot of the guys who are kind of like, we need a return to patriarchy, but we want to keep all the good shit.
Yeah.
It's like we want to keep the penicillin, we want to keep medical care, we want to keep our trucks, we want to keep our truck nuts, and we have to keep the internet because how is our cold shower man's community going to keep in contact if we don't have the internet?
Exactly. Oh, there it was. That's what I was looking for. IDDQD. That's what they want. Anybody from the 90s might recognize that one.
No idea what that is.
That's the Doom code for invincibility, the cheat code.
Ah, no.
I can't think of a catchy way to make it describe what we're saying, but you're right. And that's what gets me is that people love to be kind of caught in that sulking area, and this is where the permission thing comes in. Back to the topic, is that they don't like their lot in life now compared to everybody else. They consider theirs to be worse, which is maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Who cares? So everybody wants things to go back to a way that can't happen, but they're not willing to adapt. So you put yourself in this purgatory, and I think that purgatory is where content creators, now you can say that they're grifting or you can say that they're filling a need. These guys want to wallow in the self-pity and the misery, because it's easier than either just saying, all right, you win, cell phones are here, Tinder's here, I'm just going to adapt, or pulling a Unabomber and hoping that you take out the power grid. And guys don't want to do either, so they would rather just have somebody tell them a bunch of stuff. But I don't even think they want to tell them what to do. I think they want somebody to say what you should do, so you can nod that your values are being reinforced, and then go back to doing nothing. That's my thought.
Well, I think you're right. I think a lot of people just don't want to adapt, and we're being forced to adapt faster and faster. And I mean, you're noticing this with got some shit about that yesterday because I tweeted out like, can we please stop electing people to government who are so old that they call you like, what's my Facebook password?
Yeah, my old lady noticed that what's his name, Biden, showed up on a YouTube vid. She's like, he's got those like old man liver spots now. What the hell? I just started laughing.
And it's not necessarily about age, but I have a theory that I don't think our ability to learn ever goes away, but I think a lot of people stop learning at a given point in their life.
Yeah.
And
no, that's
quite a
100%
few
what it
people,
is.
Once they turn like 45 or 50, they just stop taking in new shit. And it's usually because they're in a comfortable enough position that they don't have to.
Mm-hmm. And they don't find interest in it.
Well, that's one thing, but if you're working at a company, let's say in 1985, and you're still doing the typewriter thing, you're doing everything manually and so on, and then suddenly laptops and computers arrive. You're kind of forced to adopt those because the company you're working for forces you to do so.
Right.
But let's say you've been working in politics, for instance, where you have secretaries and aides and everything that does all that crap for you.
Right.
You don't really have to adapt to it. Like, you have guys running your social media for you, you have people answering your emails for you. And at that point, you have no reason to learn the new technology unless you're specifically interested in it.
Which is weird because those guys are the ones in charge of regulating it. Something they have no idea what it is.
And that was one of the big things that I kind of pointed to yesterday when I was tweeting about it. Is just that people are regulating things they don't understand. Because it's kind of funny when you look at the Senate hearings when they're talking about technology.
Right.
It's almost like listening to a physics professor trying to explain gravity to a bunch of apes.
Actually, it reminds me of 80s science fiction. You remember like when they talk about computing machines and you're like, what the hell? You could tell they didn't have the writer never knew what a computer was. He's talking about it like he read it in a book. I love that stuff. Yeah, but you're right, it doesn't work in the real world.
Yeah, and I think you need to have like a certain cross-section of the population represented in elected government just to make people focus on it.
But you won't. That's the problem. Because if it's like running a syndicate, or not a syndicate, what do they call them? A condo. You know, they have the condo board, and it's always people with the least amount of stuff to do and the most want for power are the only ones that ever sign up for a condo board. Any person who would be good at the job either is too busy doing something better for his time or hates the BS surrounding it so much, he's like, it's not worth not getting paid for it. And I think politics, for the most part, is that. And I know everybody says, well, look, these guys are making millions of dollars off of this and that. It's like, most politicians aren't, man. Most politicians get to, like, make a decent living, I guess. But for the most part, it's just being able to wield your power, the smallest amount of power. But I don't think you're going to get the best and the brightest. The best and the brightest have better things to do. There's a big brain drain issue.
No, that's kind of the case with this space too, though. Like, the best and brightest, they might come in here, take what they need, and then fuck off. So what you're left with is a population that is slowly becoming more and more, I don't know how to word this.
Brain drain. Wait, what? How'd you put it?
Like, well, you had the crappy. But you had the tweet about that. Like, Reddit used to be a decent place for nerds to share their passions. Now it's for artistic ugliness, astroturfing, Chinese venture capital influence peddling, and bored stemwise to nag and argue for support.
Yeah, regression of the mean is a bitch, man. It's really annoying. And it used to be social media wasn't so big. So, for example, there used to be Plime. I don't know if you guys remember that. Then Plime turned into Dig, and then Dig moved over to the Reddit. So there was always like, you could always move further west to get away from civilization to have your little hobby farm with your other like hobbyist nerds. But then that's the problem now. Like, what are the big platforms? You got Twitter, you got Facebook, you got Instagram, and you got Reddit. They're now so big, they have such large moats around it that there really is no competition for them, and there never will be unless something major happens. So now the internet has been for what's the term? Is it emancipation? What's the American term where they kept moving west and eventually there was no land to the west?
Expansion?
Yeah. So there's like nowhere else to expand. I mean, yeah, technically the internet is infinite, but you don't have enough people to get a new platform started. And
I think the only way you can make that work is to make it less user friendly.
Oh, actually, you know what? That actually makes sense because that was the whole point that everybody's always angry, like with Red Pill, how it always has the angry jargon. And part of that was just because guys in the anger phase, you appealed to them with a language that's useful to them. But another part of it is since you can't keep women out, the only thing you can do is make it so intolerable to women that they don't want in there. So I could see that working.
We have an interesting comment here. Carl, you probably have experience with the European Gen Z, the Gretas of the world. They are walking, talking, Dunning-Kruger effect. Way scarier than old fart politicians. Yeah, I agree with you on that to some extent, but I think the problem is we need to kind of take out everyone. But my argument has been that you shouldn't be able to have a say in how we govern until you are invested in what we're doing.
Yeah, shouldn't. Yeah, how do we get from should to is? That's the problem.
Well, it's like H.L. Mencken said, and any election is an auction on stolen goods. It's essentially politicians saying we'll take from these fuckers and give to you if you vote for us.
And that's the one. Nick had it, by the way. Manifest Destiny. That was the word I was looking for.
Oh, nice.
All right.
So for me, we need to kind of lock the most idealistic and the youngest out of having an influence, and we also need to keep like old fart influence to a reasonable level.
I don't see how though.
You can afford a few radicals if you have like a solid base in the middle. It's back to that bell curve. You can afford to have like the extreme right and the extreme left if you have a solid enough base within like a certain degree of the Overton window.
Yeah, see, on paper, I agree with you. It makes perfect sense. It would be awesome. And it's the same thing that socialists say. If we could just do this and that, we get our utopia. To which I have two things about it. One, nobody ever talks about how to get from here to there. Ever. Because it's impossible. Right now, everybody can vote. With the idea being, if you're being governed, you should have some say in how you're being governed. They never put a means test into that. Then the other side of things is you're asking a lot of these people, of which low information voters generally will vote for things for me. Like, people pray to God because they want favors. It's the same thing, but it's just politics. To get them to go against their own self-interest to appeal to some noble, greater good is an impossibility. They either aren't capable, not willing, and you can't incentivize them to do that. So that's the reason I try not to get too far into these then is because to me, it sounds the same as, MGTOW's talking about repeal the 19th Amendment and everything go back to normal. I'm like, yeah, sure. Just let me know how you want to get there.
Work. I do think term limits, as some guy mentioned in the chat, is a good one. Like, you can at most be, let's say, in a position for 8 years. And that goes for, like, the entire bureaucracy as well.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's what it has to be. But that's the problem, too, because then who has the institutional memory? If you're churning it out every 8 years, what's going to happen is like lobbyists or those kind of like outside advisors are going to be the ones that have all the institutional memory because there's nobody who's been there long enough. So you're kind of giving power to people who haven't been elected, which is my issue with that for term limits. That's why I'm a big fan of things like our Senate's lifetime appointment or the Supreme Court's lifetime appointments. Because you're there for life. You can't be fired. It's like getting tenure. So they aren't privy to public pressure. Now, whether that plays out that way or not, I don't know. I'd have to
I
look
think it's
into it more.
I think it's a complex issue, and it's kind of to the side of the topic.
Yeah.
And it just kind of popped up here, so it is an interesting discussion, but it's an intellectual discussion. It's mental masturbation.
Oh, 100%.
But
I
but
100%
what
agree.
but what I was getting at with the user friendliness is
Yeah.
that if your barrier to entry for something is sufficiently high, the people who actually get in there are going to be people who really want to be there or need to be there. When it's very easy, like with Reddit, you could just sign up and make a user account.
Yeah.
Anyone can join and anyone can say their piece. And it kind of goes back to, I think it was Christopher Hitchens at one point said that, yeah, everyone has a book in them, and for most people, that's where it should stay.
I always like that one. There's ways
Because
around
what
it though.
happened? Because like the way it used to be is like if you wanted to say your opinion on something, you have to sit down, you have to write a letter to the editor or a letter to a newspaper. You had to kind of get past the editing room. You had some gatekeepers in place, and that has the negative sides too.
Yeah.
But at least you didn't have a forum where all the Karens could get together and agree that customer service is dead. Because
Yes.
you get that kind of signal and noise, and the noise ratio is going up because everyone has their ability to speak, but not necessarily the competence to realize when they should shut the fuck up. So it becomes like the expression here walking, talking Dunning Kruger machines.
Hmm.
And they find each other. Like, one guy joked that, the good thing about Pornhub is that no matter how fucked up your fetish is, you can find it there and realize, oh, there are other people who are into this shit.
And here's what else they like.
And it's kind of the same thing with the opinions on the internet. It's that the loudest voices and the most controversial voices always get the eyes on them. I had a talk with someone the other day, like, when did newspapers turn into YouTube well, with their titles? Because there's been a trend where it's like so and so crushes so and so in bold attack against so and so, and it's like most of the time it's like some timid ass politician who's like, I somewhat disagree with the honored gentleman from Vancouver.
Yeah, that's an attention thing. So I'd argue that's institutional failure, and this is kind of where, for guys that I really like, and back to the topic, I don't think guys need to be looking for an alternate father figure, because institutions are failing because people at the top are are predatory about it. So you're right. Newspapers used to be the fifth estate. If you wanted information, that's where you went. Now we could argue whether it used to be balanced or not, whether it was the same as it always is, whatever. The point is, though, they know that they have to basically trick you into reading things with YouTube clickbait headlines. So right there, you can just tell they're not taking their responsibility seriously. Politicians aren't taking their responsibility seriously. Ours just gave away $1 trillion this year, and he's essentially like, the government will pay everybody, and that's how we're going to get through COVID. So everybody is failing on all these top levels. And just from a game perspective, I find it irresponsible to have a should in life, like these moral shoulds. We should leave things better than we found them. We should do this. We should do that. Because everybody around us isn't. And if you can't beat them, you got to join them. That's how we got into. That's how guys in 2008 got into problems. They were like, you know what? I promised I'd pay off this mortgage, and I was going to pay it off. Meanwhile, the guys were like, whatever. Just walk away from this one. Bankruptcy 2 years, and I'll walk away 50,000 richer. Those guys did well, and the honorable guys who talked about should and making things better got screwed. And we're just in a place right now where all of our former moral frameworks of like honesty and integrity and all the good stuff you want to put in there are actively punished because we have too much abundance. So it's almost incentivized to be predatory.
Oh, I think you completely agree with you, and but I think it always was kind of like that. I think it's just become very apparent now
Yeah,
because you've taken away like the last shreds of accountability.
true.
Because the way it used to be is like take taxes for instance.
Yeah.
Like I just cited, like the tax rate in Rome was 1%, and it
Jesus.
wasn't income tax; it was a form of wealth and property tax. So
Okay.
they'd kind of estimate how much shit you had, and they'd be like, "Okay, give us 1% of it." And okay, we're going to war against the Celts. We're going to need 2% now. And then once we're done killing Celts, we'll take it back down to 1% because the plunder is covering the deficit.
Right.
And part of the reason why taxes were so low when you had kings and everything is that if the king was taking too much from the population, they'd revolt and kill his ass.
Pretty much.
But what happens now is people are complicit in their own robbery, and they're kind of asking for it too, because people are asking for everyone else should handle everything, so I don't have to.
Right.
And at that point, you have to pay them for those services. Same reason you pay an escort. It's not because you want sex, it's because you want sex at the most basic level of effort, in a sense.
Yeah. Lazy. Lack of a better word, lazy.
Yeah, you just pay. You have so much money that you're paying not to be inconvenienced.
Which on a personal level is great. That works. But you're right, on a higher level or a more abstract layer, like a government layer, all it leads to is like this weird siphoning cycle. Constant debt building. You inflate away the cost of things. So yeah, you have to spend, $1 trillion this year, but if you just inflate the currency, then that trillion's actually only 500 billion. Meanwhile, the guys that are working end up doing less. The guys who have capital end up earning more. It's like a vicious cycle. And then back to the topic, I think sexually, like the marketplace, same thing. Girls have automated any sort of personal responsibility to the point where you could actually say, like, you could walk into a class and give a, hey guys, no, don't struggle hug chicks, okay? And then take that seriously and get mad when somebody suggests maybe don't walk naked and drunk through an alleyway at 3 a.m. in this bad part of town, and then you become the bad guy. Or girls on OnlyFans getting mad when a guy shames them at work because, hey, I just noticed I saw your asshole on OnlyFans last night and that's posted up at the job. Because there's no consequence for any of it, and you're the bad guy for wanting to do the moral thing, and so like screw it.
Man, men are held to accountability to a higher level than women by default, but women are slowly churning away every aspect of accountability. And I think a lot of the guys are mostly upset that they're not allowed to do the same thing.
But that's just it. Yeah. And here's back to the perfect thing for the topic. Permission. We're not allowed to do the same thing. Do you think any of those girls waited for permission? They just started doing it and dared a guy to sort them out because that's how girls used to filter for good quality men anyway. Who's going to tell me no? And then the first guy to say no, you can have 7 babies. Let's do it. But guys didn't have that feedback mechanism. So we're still sitting here waiting for, dad to say, it's okay, son. You can sign up for her OnlyFans. It's okay, son. You can get on Tinder and swipe that one right. It's okay to get a slump buster, son. Yeah, thanks, Dad.
My favorite though are the kind of like the in the middle guys. The guys who are like, okay, we have to adapt to our present reality.
Right.
So we have to use Tinder, but we'll only use it to filter for high quality women.
Oh, yeah, the 1 foot in types. Those drive me nuts even more so. I guess we could call them purple pillars because that's kind of what they are. They kind of know, but at the same time they want to pigeonhole whatever. The religious types, the secular religious types. What else would they be?
No, but I've caught a lot of flack for various things over the years in my personal life. Is my volume low?
I don't know. I guess Juan says so. We'll see. Just get your ass right in there and just go full midnight radio.
If I get any closer to the goddamn mic, I'm gonna end up deep throating it. And if I'm gonna start doing that, I may as well do OnlyFans instead of this shit.
Yeah, because they should know better, and I don't think, like, whatever. We'll get your volume to where it's at. We can't have you just fiddling doing mic checks this whole time.
Should work now, I think.
Juan, just turn to here. I tell you what, Juan. Here's what I'll do. I'll put my mic further away, so I'm quieter, and then you can turn your volume up, and everybody wins. Okay?
Okay, turn my volume up now. Is it better now? Yeah, I think it should be.
Oh, it's always sounded great to me. I think it's just my volume is too loud.
Oh,
that might be what it is. So I gave it an extra couple inches there. when in doubt, always add a couple extra inches. That solves all your problems.
Okay, so where was I before we started doing mic checks?
The 1 foot in types. The ones who they want to do Tinder, but they're not willing to.
Yeah, so kind of where I was coming from is like when I was early in corporate, I think
Right?
everyone is idealistic because you're expecting, okay, the boss sees me working hard, the boss sees me deliver, I'm going to get a good pay raise. No, you get the same as everyone else or even less.
Yeah.
And once you've experienced that a couple times, then you kind of get to the point, well, fuck these guys, I'm getting mine. And that kind of builds on it. So you start off as this corporate idealist, and then you're a complete corporate psychopath by the time you turn 50.
And that's what they incentivized.
And it's the same, yeah, and it's kind of the same thing with dating. It's like you start off idealistic. Oh, I just want to find the one. I want to be able to, kind of get me the one for me, get a picket fence, and get the house. And then, like 10 years later, after running through hosts and being ran through the grinder a couple times, you're like,
Yeah.
fuck these bitches. I'm gonna choke that hoe so hard that the blood vessels in her fucking eyes burst.
And then she ends up calling him back. And you're like, what? That's supposed to be anger, damn it. How was I supposed to know girls like this?
Well, it's really interesting. It's just like you end up changing that way, and if you try to remain idealistic, you just end up getting fucked.
Well, that's actually why I hate the idealistic guys with the megaphone, because you can tell it comes from a place of no experience. Like, say what you will about the 45-year-old divorced guy crowd, but when it comes to the sexual marketplace, I'd argue they have the most realistic appraisal after their bitch ex-wife ran them through the ringer, and then they end up finding out, oh my
Kind of
god,
like,
23-year-olds want this. That's crazy.
and it's kind of. I just think it's so interesting to kind of look at. I think one of the more interesting things we talked about getting punched in the face on an earlier show. That the first time before you've been punched in the face,
Right?
you're very scared of being punched in the face, and once it happened a couple of times, you're not scared of it anymore because you know that okay, I won't die. It's going to hurt, but it's probably going to hurt his hand a bit too,
Yeah.
and I'll survive it. And it's kind of the same thing with, uh, let's say, rough sex too, because you realize, like, the first time you treat the girl so gingerly, and then a while in, you're more or less throwing her against the walls,
Yeah. And then the
and you
reactions are getting
realize that
better.
not only do girls survive it, they actually love it.
And that's
So
experience.
it's just
Experience has to
air,
happen.
yeah, like air on the side of fuck this.
But I don't think there's magic words or a magic video that you can do to get a guy there. Like they just it's hard to swallow. Guys won't believe it. They have to experience it themselves. Like I've even seen it on my Patreon. There was a guy talking about he had like a 6 month dry spell and he just couldn't find one. And I'm like, here's dude, just get yourself a slump buster, a girl you don't even like, a girl you definitely won't brag about. Get yourself a four, get yourself a frumper, get whatever. And he goes, oh, why would I do that? Oh, why would I? I'm like, dude, is your problem you haven't been laid in 6 months? Or is your problem that the girl that's not hot enough that you can show off to your buddies? Like, first off, don't show off to your buddies. Your buddies aren't fluffing you, so they don't. Their opinion doesn't matter. And sure enough, I think it was like 2 weeks later, he comes back. He's like, "That's the greatest advice I've ever gotten. She was compliant. She was enthusiastic. She treated me well." And I'm like, "Is what happens when Chads meet girls? Is this how they're treated?" I'm like, "Yeah, basically." But that's the point. Like he had to experience it for himself. He would not have believed it otherwise.
Now I completely get where you're coming from, and to get this back to like the permission thing. I remember a while back they had that discussion. Oh, guys should ask consent on every single step of a sexual encounter, and it's like that is the biggest singular turnoff to any girl. It's like, is it okay if I choke you?
Yeah.
Is it okay if I kiss you now? Is it okay if I take this shit off? Because it's antithetical to passion. It's kind of like that danger thing where girls want to know that the guy could kill them, but he chooses not to.
Yeah. And there's some
And that
kink communities
aggression, I
around
think,
this,
is.
man.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's one, it's I can't really I'll just type it in the chat. It's like slut hate, I think they call it. But it's essentially girls who go out looking to get struggle hugged. But it doesn't work if
Struggle
the
hugging?
guy, yeah, struggle hugging. I already know
Right.
the algorithm will just completely nuke a video and start talking about that in its legal form.
Okay, fair enough.
But and the thing is, they don't want to do role play. If the guy knows, it doesn't work for them. So they literally have to go out and try and find the right kind of guy who's willing to struggle hug him, essentially. It's completely fucked up. And then you look at it and you're like, "Oh my god." And you kind of think like how many of these girls are there out there that are literally going around trying to get you to assault them because that's their kink.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's a very strange
Not like
question, Juan.
not from like a kink shaming perspective. It's just kind of a how do you work out those logistics?
That's just it. They literally work on entrapment. Like the guys aren't privy to any of this stuff. And it throws me
Yeah, I
off
know.
because
I know the one where they like it's a role play thing.
yeah. Yeah,
But
that
how
I've
do you deal
seen.
with when the guy is not supposed to know? Like, do you just start walking through back alleys naked,
Well, I
like
remember
pretending to be
one.
drunk?
I actually know one of the mods there because occasionally some guy who will like take two posts into the red pill or the married red pill will go in there and start running his mouth. I'm like, yeah, we already tell guys not to brigade, so just send me a username when you find one and I'll block them from our side too. Thank you. But she was saying her best things were to pretend to pass out drunk at like frat parties and stuff like that. That was a big one. And then to tease a guy like the give him blue balls, and then you get the guy with just enough anger that they'll probably be like, no means yes, god damn it. There's a whole bunch more to it, but I haven't been there in forever, so who knows what they're up to now. Funny thing though, they haven't been banned by the Reddit Chinese overlords, so I guess struggle hugging is okay as long as the girl consents to it, even if the guy doesn't. Reddit,
Yeah,
man.
the whole thing is, yeah, it's goes kind of to the core of the practical actions, not asking for permission. That is just essentially at the core of the red pill. I'd say is
Yeah,
taking what you want within the bounds of legality.
yeah, pretty much. And that's just, it's not even because you have some reverence for the law. It's because getting arrested and thrown into jail is the worst sexual strategy because it cuts your options down to your roommate, which is like an immoral way to look at it, but it's the only way to look at it because there's so many laws out there that are unenforceable. They're only there as like a this will get most people who are afraid of breaking the law to do it. It's almost like it's not a mandatory law. And then from a red pill perspective, it makes no sense not to do that thing if you know the chances of enforcement are essentially nil.
And it also comes back to I think someone said that feminism is one huge shit test that men are collectively failing.
Yeah, oh, it's a classic
But I
line.
do to some extent. I do think to some extent a lot of these like consent laws with
Mm-hmm.
ask consent every step, no cold approaching girls on the street. There are shit tests to see. Okay, if a guy actually follows this law, it's not the type of guy I want to sleep with.
Oh, 100%. There's no way it's not. There's no way there's a girl out there who actually think this works unless she has some kind of like bureaucratic role play fetish, which I doubt. It's just too
Well, there are a
Brazil.
lot of dumbass girls.
Yeah, it's true. But whatever.
Oh
Mattress
my
Girl. What did
god!
Mattress Girl
Every
do?
time
You
you
remember
come,
her?
oh yeah, she carried a mattress around for fucking years.
Yeah, but the
Didn't she do
part
a
that,
porn afterwards too?
well, it was she reenacted her struggle hugging. She basically got some fat dude to walk in there and act like the incident. So she was so traumatized by this stuff. She filmed herself a performance art piece of getting railed, made herself a personal porn of the issue. And I'm like, that feeling you get when somebody knows that any attention is good attention and they just kind of, like a 2 year old. You laugh at something when a 2 year old falls down, so they sit there and they pretend to fall down another 20 minutes, and you're like, yeah, it's not funny when you do it on purpose. It's like that. Literal children. She wasn't even that good looking.
Yeah,
I'm like,
sorry.
dude,
I was just kind of trying to think about all the people on Twitter that are like, all attention is good attention. Let's see how I can piss people off today.
yeah. And to be fair,
But
I'm doing it
Irishman
a bit
Bateman had
too.
like the ultimate. By the way, Irishman Bateman just had like the most secure way of dying from alcohol poisoning. Drink every time you come across a Tinder guide on TRP sub.
That's crazy. Oh, I remember the gay lube oil one. That one was funny. His thing was like girls are autistic, so here's how you talk to autistic people and pick them up. I'm like, it was the worst game advice I've ever seen, like ever. There's the one Tinder guide, they're Mallard Cove, and that's it. If you guys are seeing anything else, either somebody is ripping them off or they're doing the old mystery method thing where they build some convoluted version of it that's super complex because nerds love difficulty for the sake of difficulty. Take it.
Well, for me, like when I was using the different apps,
Mm-hmm.
what I found worked the best was you need to have good pictures, and I kind of outlined this before. Like you want to have at least two pictures. You need to have like a reasonably close up, close to a portrait type picture,
Right.
and a full body picture. And ideally, you want to have like five pictures. So you have something that shows you in an activity. You have something that makes you look good. So let's say you have the full six pack abs thing, and you're not a skinny dude.
Yeah.
Do put up a situation where it would be natural for you to be shirtless.
Which is
And
better
then
than the
when you write
toothpaste
your
stained
bio,
bathroom selfie.
yeah, and like with the bio, I found that copywriting was actually useful in that write something that's funny, give them some piece of information, and then put a call to action at the end.
Interesting.
And
So that
once
Ed
you
Lattimore guide will
do
actually
that,
help you on your picking up chicks.
well, the reason why I found that it worked is that girls actually read bios more than men do.
Really?
Because I would always read the bios, but that was because I'm good with coming up with the good openers.
Right.
So I'd always try to kind of build an opener either from the pictures or the bio. Like, let's see, she has a picture with all her girlfriends, and it looks kind of like a Benetton ad, and all of them kind of have their own distinct style. You can open it. So, when is your girl band releasing their next album?
Mhm. Oh, so you're essentially doing Roosh's opinion, his old man opener kind of thing, but online. Something noteworthy, something to like build a opinion off of that they can kind of comment on.
Well, the idea of it is like most people suck with openers. I kind of discovered that on Bumble because the girls have to open. And girls are horrible at openers. So they're like, it's always like a hi or a hey or something like that. And I just figure that most guys are probably going to suck at openers too. So, logic being, if a girl is getting like, has 20 guys sending her messages, who's she most likely to respond to? The guy who opened with hey or hi? Never use hi, by the way, it sucks. The guy who opened with that, or the guy who actually showed that he read the profile? So I
I
just
mean, it's
started from
different at
that.
the very least. Even if it's not effective, it's something unique, right?
Well, and it's also, it kind of takes away from the copy paste opener.
Right.
Because a lot of guys will use the same opener over and over again, even if they have little success with it. And moving over to, it allows you to kind of field test openers to see like, okay, which style do you want to do? Do you want to do like a question? Do you want to do like a statement? I always found that, questions are worse than, an assumption about her. Because if the assumption is right, she's going to be, oh my God, what? How did he get this? And if it's wrong, she's going to want
Correcting
to
you.
correct you.
Oh yeah, that's internet 101. Give an opinion because everybody will want to correct you. It's like the easiest way to get engagement from anybody.
And I think for the most part, I think to go a little bit back on topic, just start doing things. It's kind of corny to steal Rich's line, but just do the work.
Hmm.
It's always better to be doing something than waiting for someone to give you permission to do something because no one's ever going to do that.
Yeah, and I could
Like I was
see.
talking to like a junior.
Yeah,
Well, just to finish the thought, like I was talking to a junior guy at a company that I worked with for a while,
yeah.
and he was like, "I'm just waiting for my boss to come and ask me if I want a pay raise." And
Good luck with that.
no one's ever going to come up to you and be like, "Hey, you've been doing a great job. Have a bonus." You're going to have to demand that.
Yep.
Your boss is never going to be like, "Hey, dude, I give you permission to ask me for a higher salary." It's not going to happen.
Nope. I was gonna say the
So what
one
was your
time I
thought
can
back there?
see is nice if a guy doesn't even know where to start, to give him like the bare minimum direction. But for most things, you kind of trying anything is better than trying nothing. But like you said for Tinder, all right, here you have no idea how to start with Tinder. Give him your photo thing. 2 photos, body shot, face shot. Make them look good. Have you doing something. Make it look like you are around people, and don't take it in your bathroom. Everything else you can kind of A/B test. But then that's the thing. Once they come back with an A/B test, it's not asking for permission. It's I tried hey on 50 girls, none of them opened. That's something you can work with. That's okay. Well, hey really works, hi really sucks, or hey sucks, hi sucks, and the same speech you were giving there. But if you lead, and this is what I've found for most guys when you're talking about any type of consulting or advice, if you lead with exactly what they need to know, they won't do it. But if they lead with something that they've screwed up, and you offer some guidance on how to fix that, they tend to be a lot more compliant. So even from the
And I think
content
it's,
creator standpoint, you need a guy to start doing things. Otherwise, you're just sitting there jerking each other off.
but I think it's also it comes with fear of failure and fear of success at the same time. Because if he makes a decision and he just starts A/B testing and he fucks up,
Yeah.
that's him failing. If you tell a guy to open with hey and he fails, that's not him failing. That's you failing.
Yeah. Oh, and the funny part, I love how that works too, where they'll set up like I don't want to say who, but like the grifting type, where you set up convoluted systems. So if the guy fails, he's like, well, the guy told me what to do, it's his fault. And then the guy will come back saying, you didn't follow it exactly right. That's why you failed. You just need to try harder. It's like this weird circle jerk of accountability that it's nobody's fault, yet things are still going wrong. And I find it's brilliant from like a scam perspective.
Well, it's the exact business model that a lot of strategy consultancies use. Because they'll create strategies for companies,
Mm-hmm.
and then if they fail, then they can say, well, you didn't implement it correctly, or you failed to implement them exactly the way and at the time we wanted you to.
Yeah.
And it's
That,
kind of perfect if you're doing that approach, because then they're going to hire you to do another strategy and another strategy. There's a reason why you have like thousands of consultancies that does like marketing plans or strategies or that type of thing.
yeah.
But there are very, very few that have that, okay, we'll implement your strategy for you in your organization. Because the former, you don't really have accountability.
Right.
The latter one, you have full accountability. Because if you made the strategy and you implemented it,
And you can't
then
implement
it's
it.
on
Yeah.
you. Yeah, it's kind of goes back to that. And that's why I do think a lot of people kind of want to do that because it gives them a way to continue the grift. It's kind of like playing. You ever done Texas Hold'em?
I have.
Yeah, when you play that, you kind of wait for. If you have a lot of outs with your hand in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
like say you have a pair, and then as the cards are coming out, you either gain or lose outs.
Right.
Because with a pair, you can get three of a kind, you can get four of a kind, etc.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of outs. But once a lot of cards start going off the table and you don't have as many, you start to get less outs. And it's the same thing here, is that you can create a situation where you always have an out. Okay, I'll try to say something now and I'll mute my mic and we'll see if it's my mic picking it up.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, let me ask you this question then. Oh wait, is your yo? Maybe it is my mic. What the hell? Maybe my headset's on way too
Because I
loud.
do have a sound in the back there that it's not an echo, it's more like a reverb.
Either way, well, I was gonna say on this. So let me
We should
ask you
really
this
start 10
question
minutes
then.
before we.
So you got the
Yeah, go.
consultancies that are doing this kind of grift where build up a lack of accountability, blame the other guy for your problems. That's how the business world's working. It's how a lot of companies work. Deloitte, PwC, whatever. They aren't actually implementing. They're just advising, and then they circle jerk each other around. So if that's the way everybody in the world is working right now, why should that be any different? Like, why is the sphere held to a higher standard? The point where guys like, for example, you, very irritated that guys are using the exact same things they'd be using if they were corporate.
I don't think we have to, but I think we should.
Yeah. Which I agree
Because
with.
it's something that differentiates us in the market.
Right. But then that's the problem.
Because
The
if
market
we
is just
are the
people
guys
making
who.
decisions.
Sorry, what was that?
But the market is just people that make decisions. That's every market. And so there's
Yeah, but
people
I think
here and
like
there's people there. And you're going to get the same kind of people in both sides.
yeah, I'm fully aware that this is kind of a moral argument that I'm about to make,
Yeah.
but my perspective on it is that the guys who come here are generally guys who are out of options.
Mm-hmm.
They're very vulnerable,
Right.
and they are most likely they've been kicked in the balls a couple hundred times.
Right.
And this is in many ways like their last option.
100% agree.
Therefore, I think it's a higher level of responsibility for people who are dealing with that type of client from purely a moral perspective. Like
Yeah.
Rolo's always said, like his goal with all this shit is to keep men from putting a noose around their neck. And if you have the guy and he has the rope, he has the hook set up in the roof, in the ceiling, you don't want to be the guy who pushes him over it. If you know what I mean. And it's a purely moral argument, and you can't possibly hold. Like, we have no mechanics for holding people accountable for giving bad advice in this sphere.
No.
We don't really have any, like, barriers to entry. We had debates on that, like, back during a certain issues with a certain convention that shall not be mentioned.
Yeah, and there's no extra
So there's no
responsibility that comes with that accountability either. So it's the same problem that we have in the sexual marketplace.
that, from my perspective, it's just purely more a moral case. And it's something I've tried to stick with.
Yeah. Oh, and I agree. Me too. I take it more of an immoral perspective though. So consider this. If I can do the immoral thing, I could do it in corporate and it earns more money. So why would I do that here as well? For me, it's a case study on whether you can act in the way you're describing and still make it viable. So for me, it's more like that as opposed to like it's because we should do this. Well, it's like, hey, can we? Because that's my big complaint about it. It's not that grift is here. It's not that guys are saying things they can't be held accountable for and causing real harm. It's that the opportunity cost of doing it here is much worse than doing it just about anywhere else. You can run the same AJ Cortez grift on politics. You could run it on corporate. You can run it on Facebook ads. Everywhere else you can run, you can make a killing. This is probably the worst place to do it. So my argument more for the grifters here is that they are retarded and have no other options. So in a sense, they're kind of in the same way that you said the guys coming here have been kicked in the balls 100 times and we're like the last resort. I'd almost say for a lot of the content creators, it's kind of the same situation. Which I don't know, life has its little ironies, you know?
That is actually a very good point. I
Yeah.
did not think about that.
Well, and that's kind of where I put this on Rolo, where he kind of is not just trying to be the call him moral for lack of a better word, the moral guy for the guys that are on their last legs, doesn't want anybody putting a gun in their mouth, but also from the content creator's side. Like he still would like I would love to debate Pat Stedman, just give me a topic and we'll stick to it. Like he's holding them to a standard too. Granted, it works just about as well. But I
Well,
mean,
the
we're
whole
still new
thing
into
is
this.
like
It's only
people
been
are
what, a
always
year or
going to
two?
pick their champion.
Yeah, it's only been like a
Well,
year or
think about
two.
it like Mortal Kombat, man. Think of like Mortal Kombat. You
Yeah.
get to pick your champion, and you stick with that guy. You're not going to switch characters unless your guy turns out to be horribly bad. Like you need 8 fingers to pull off the combos.
Well, a bunch of people did though. I still remember what was that
It is
quote?
kind of a
The only
popularity
thing
thing.
that Rolo ever did was introduce me to Anthony Johnson. I remember that line. That line stuck with me, and I was like, what kind of nonsense was that?
What was that?
Oh, it was something I heard. I won't say who, but everybody should know who I'm talking about if I do. It's like the only thing Rollo ever did for me was introduce me to Anthony Johnson. And I was like, holy crap. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, consider yourselves lucky. Somebody in the chat will
Mm.
correct you. And I was like, out of all the things to say, that one reeks of like shiny object syndrome, dangling the shiny object in front of you. Hey, you can spend a week in Orlando and have some fun. Nobody's getting paid. Like, say what you will about Rolo, but when you work with him, he makes sure he's not just taking money and then you're doing work for free. But typical guy who's worked for a living before kind of understands the process of of earning a living doing things for other people.
Yeah,
There we
and
go.
there is no doubt that there is a service provider element to all this, and all the guys are doing good stuff. It's important and it's important work. For me, it's just like the best way to tell the difference between like a grift and someone's genuinely trying is one person is offering you permission and is trying to lead you, and the
Right.
other guy is giving you practical steps you can take in order to be that for yourself.
Yeah. Which I agree. Foundational, from a foundational perspective, I think that's the meta lesson that everybody kind of needs to learn, that first step. I'm not looking for permission. I'm looking for guidance or help, I guess. Or maybe not even help. I'm looking for a
I think
direct.
that was kind of that's
Yeah,
why I
what's.
loved, like, we used to have this back when I was studying pickup
Yeah, yeah.
back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Like, you'd never listen to a guy unless he did his 100 approaches. And that kind of created a barrier because you can't just come in here and start spouting convoluted shit. You have to actually have your approaches and your field reports in order before you can start trying to teach.
Yeah, and other guys who had that in place would be there as almost a gatekeeper in that, okay, at least somebody's seen that he's done this, right?
And it's also like back with the subreddit, it used to be like, do you lift? Used to be like basic things like, do you shower? Do you lift?
Mm,
Do your clothes actually fit you? Have you had a haircut recently? Do you
yeah.
brush your fucking teeth? And those things used to be like, okay, the most basic things you need to handle. And then once you can answer yes to all those questions, then we can start talking other things. And I love that 100 approaches thing just from that perspective of being sort of a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Because once you've done, like, let's say you do 10 approaches and you strike out, then you have some data we can work with. It's like, okay, first girl was this, first girl was that, and you can kind of, okay, maybe you do this instead. You can give someone practical advice on how to do better at something.
True, because before he screws up, he doesn't know where his weak spots are. But usually one or two screw ups in, the weak spots become glaring, and that's what you can work with. Because like I think it's what you said at the beginning, you shouldn't be working about maximizing anything. You should be just removing all the dead weight, getting rid of all the failures you have, get yourself to a baseline, and then you can worry about self improvement or whatever you want to say at that point.
I did something called the peace model at some point. I'm just going to pull that here quick
Peace model.
so I can. Yeah, it was just something I coined because everyone in this fucking space needs to coin a model. And it's populate, initiate, escalate, close, and enduring. And the whole idea behind it was, okay, before you can hit on girls, you need to have girls to hit on.
Right.
Once you have girls to hit on, then you have girls where you can initiate an interaction.
Right.
Once you have initiated the interaction, you need to escalate that towards sex. Once you've escalated to a sufficient level, you have to close it. So that means you have to get her to a private location or to somewhere where you can actually have sex with her.
Yeah, the isolate.
And then if you want to have plates or if you want to get into a relationship, you have to kind of transition the interaction and the close into another initiation. And the whole reason I came up with it was it makes it a lot easier to diagnose where guys are fucking up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same as the
Because
mystery method with the 3 steps. You always knew if it was a problem in 1, 2, or 3 because the next step wouldn't go well.
And I also think a lot of guys want that checklist. And I think the checklists are good as long as they're practical.
Well, I would almost say you kind of want the checklist to be broad, like very more abstract. That's why what was the mystery one? It was initiate, instigate, isolate. I can't remember what it was. Somebody help me out here. Hold on a sec. Mystery, isolate. Anyways, but that's the point. It was 3 steps, but it lets you know what your end goal was. It wasn't so much saying what you had to do for practicality. It just said at the end of this goal, you want to have, like you said on yours, you want to have a girl isolated somewhere where it's just you and her together. So you can do anything you want in between there, but every action you do, you look at it from the perspective of, does this get me closer to having her and me somewhere private, or does it get me further away from that goal? But it's not so specific as to like ruin any out of the box thinking, any creativity, or anything like that. I guess we can map it, like let's map it to a corporate thing. Your goal is to earn as much money as you can with the least amount of work possible. And your boss's goal is to pay you the least amount possible for the most amount of work. Those are very abstract, practical, but abstract goals. So when you're doing something, your boss is like, hey, I need you to come in on Saturday. And to what your answer is, no. Now, he can just say, all right, then you're fired. Which then you could say, well, I don't have any other options, so I'll come in Saturday. Or I'll just move over to the company next door and do those instead. But you see what I mean? Like a very nice, complex strategy develops, and your set of problems and your set of solutions organize as long as you have, like you said, that end goal that lets you know what you should have at the end of something. I like that. And I don't think a lot of guys use that as much as they should. Like you described it perfectly with your peace thing. Thanks for the $2 super
Well,
chat, Alpha
everyone
Mailed.
has to come up with the model. What was that?
Oh, come
Come
with me
with
if you
me if
want
you
to
want to
lift,
lift.
an Arnold quote. Anyways, you were
But I
saying with
think
the
Arnold
models?
is a great example. Well, I think Schwarzenegger is a great model because like that guy knew what he wanted,
Right?
and he just kept doing whatever led down that road. And I think it's the same thing. You can ask permission in the beginning, but you don't get to do that after you've started implementing things.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to ask. Is it okay to lift? For instance, is an okay question. Is this okay to do? For instance, green lining. Is it okay to create green lines? No.
Well, who are you
Is it
asking?
okay to roofie? Is it okay to roofie chicks? No. Does banging a passed out girl at a frat party count as a successful close? Not really.
Yeah.
You can ask about those things, but don't ask like, is it okay for me to hit on chicks? Obviously. Because the only person who's limiting that is you. And if you live in Tehran, the mullahs, but potato potato.
I guess that's another thing with the permission part of it. Is like, who are you asking for permission? And I always find that whenever somebody does that permission thing, they always ask one of two people. Either the guy who's so little invested in the guy's success, they don't really care, or the kind of person who it goes against their best interests to give you permission. Like they're asking your boss for a raise. Is it okay if I ask you for a raise? Of course, your boss is going to say no. He's incentivized to keep costs down. So why would he? But that's the guy that you look for permission. It's like it's not his place to give you permission. He's not going to tell you what you want to hear. If you're going to ask a girl, is it okay if I touch you here? Well, she's incentivized to have a dude who just gets it. So of course she's going to tell you no because she doesn't want some strange dude feeling her up like a bag of sand. That's the for me that's the worst part of permission. You're always asking somebody who's going to deny you anyway. And I can't tell if guys know that when they ask somewhere, like it's the I want to fail, so here fail for me, or if they truly just don't understand who who's important enough to actually ask for permission. You know what I mean? Does
Yeah, I
that
get
make
where
any
you're coming
sense?
from.
What's that?
Yeah, it's like you're asking someone for permission to do something whose best interest is for you not to ask
Yeah.
or to not give it to you.
But you notice that it's always that. It's never somebody who's perfectly happy to say yes to it. Because those guys, you don't ask, you just go and do it because they kind of let you know anyway.
Yeah, sorry, that was a little dead air there.
That happens.
But I think, well, the permission thing it's kind of a tricky move. But as long as you're within, as long as you're not going to get arrested, you can do whatever you want. And if you feel like going to jail is cool, then go ahead and go to jail.
Yeah. And some guys like that. I know a
Like,
lot of like the thug culture
well,
is always big, having your jail time, getting your tats. You want to be the Russian guy, it gives you some status in the community. That's fine. But you don't really have to ask for permission to go commit a crime. In fact, that's the one place where you don't have to ask permission. By default, you kind of can't. All right. Sorry, one sec here. I just got a quick thing I had to deal with for Rule Zero today. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, what do you do with this? You don't want to ask for permission. Because if you ask for permission, you're generally going to ask somebody who doesn't want you to do things anyway. So, why did you bother asking? Argument to that is going to be, well, some guy with tism is going to show up and do stupid things when he really shouldn't have done it. To which I would argue, if you're that stupid, then why are you listening to me? You should probably go listen to one of the other wonderful content creators, and I'm sure we can direct you to like 5 or 6 of them. So then, when you don't ask for permission,
just on it.
well, here's my question to you then: if you're not asking for permission, how do you temper your impulses?
You temper impulses by developing a framework for yourself. Like I've kind of gotten to do that in a couple of it. It's kind of a moral framework in a sense.
Right?
Like I will skirt and I will drag the law as far as I can, but I won't break it. Just on principle, unless the incentive is big enough. It's like if I could steal $100 million and get away with it, then I probably would.
Right.
But I'm not going to risk being arrested for stealing $1,000. It's just not worth it.
So you're fine with tax avoidance, but not tax evasion.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing with the women. I generally avoid sleeping with women who are in relationships. Not because of any moral thing, just because I don't want some idiot showing up at my house with an AR-15 wanting to kill me. Because he's going to blame me, not her. It's just kind of common knowledge.
Right.
I ruined this good girl. But, so it's just those kind of rules that you develop for yourself over time, and usually they are there as a result of some kind of fuck-up, like never live with a girl unless you've known her for like 3, 4, 5 years, just on the basis that you need to know if she's nuts before you actually move in with her. Because once you live with crazy, you're living in the asylum, and that's just not going to be good for you on any level.
Right.
And that's kind of my stance on it. You have to develop those rules over time. Like I'm okay with throwing people under the bus for a reason. I don't throw someone under the bus for no reason.
See, that's what I like when you're talking about the moral framework people have. You're developing one in situ, as opposed to guys who are handed a moral framework from somebody else. Well, this is how men should act. This is how women should act. This is what should happen. This is what we are accountable for. It's like, no, I've tried these things. These are the things that I can get away with. These are the things that I can still sleep at night. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not some handed down from the heavens moral framework. It's a moral framework that you've built yourself because it's applicable in most of the situations you've been in. Struggle hugging, obviously not on. I don't like jail. But hey, a little, a little cosplay on it's fine. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's just you have to kind of work this shit out for yourself, and it's fine if you want to start with an existing moral framework. I think there are a lot of good ones out there. Mine, I've always leaned more towards consequentialism, but my current moral framework for it is just a mixture of rules and consequence evaluation in the sense that certain things you can have rules for. Like, okay, I'm not going to fuck with married chicks just because I don't want some fucking husband showing up at my door or whatever. That's a consequence-based thing, but it's become a rule that just avoid it. Now, if I do sleep with a girl who has a boyfriend or husband, then I'm not going to lose any sleep over it because, in my opinion, it's the person in the relationship who has to remain faithful.
Yeah, that's just it. It's not your responsibility to take on. Especially now, because there was an old red pill thing where every girl has a boyfriend. They always have a boyfriend. Girls cannot stand being alone. So if you're one of those guys that I would never sleep with a girl who has a boyfriend, you're essentially just not going to sleep with anybody. Or you want to build the lie in your head that, oh no, she was single, probably. She was just answering her phone because that was her cousin. But that's something you just like, you don't observe it. If you're not building your moral framework by observing what's going on around you, just setting yourself up for failure. And then that's the
And I
problem too.
think
You're
that
right. There's a
definitely
lot of
like
great ones that are out there, but there's a lot of idiots that are just trying to get like some herd immunity for their own stupid moral framework. Like the Pat Stedman ones where just get a girl in your grandma's house and build jigsaw puzzles. That's my moral framework. I'm like, God, fuck off, dude.
well, I just don't think there are any good ones. Like even the Christian framework is bad. But like if you were gonna like let's say for instance you were gonna build a moral framework that was gonna cover anything. You don't mention slavery, you don't mention rape, you don't mention kidnapping, but you have four commandments saying, "Oh, you have to always praise me."
Right.
How is that a moral framework?
That's a good question. I always use don't eat
So
pork
for
as
me,
my
it's more.
example.
Well, I just figure that if there's an all-powerful deity somewhere,
Right?
I like to think that it has more important shit to do than one of the vegan accounts on Twitter talking about how this food is immoral.
Yeah, but there you go, thinking about it again. I'd argue anybody at the top end of like that moral religious echelon has probably already realized it's kind of bullshit. But they do realize, like I said here in the chat, um, before fridges, and that's like a Chris Rock special, before fridges, pork basically went rancid and killed people really quickly. So, like, you know what? God told us not to eat pork. They know God didn't say to eat pork, but they know if they say that, everybody else underneath who's a true believer won't eat pork. Then you'll have enough Catholics so you can do the next Muslim invasion in 1300 years.
It's almost like these are frameworks to control people and to get people to act against their own interest. God damn.
Almost. Almost. And they used to be better in the sense that you were promised certain, like you can kind of know what to expect out of it. Yeah, you're gonna go do you're gonna go and fight Turkey, but whatever gold you get while you're there, you can keep that, and then when you bring a wife back with you. So there was something in it for guys. I'd argue now people have kind of gotten rid of that idea of reciprocity, and they're just like, yeah, the moral framework's here, just do it. Like it went from work hard, play hard to work hard and just sit down, stay out of trouble. So then what's the point of working hard? I think that's the
That's
next
one of a good point.
frontier as far as like a moral framework goes. What do you do when
Like one
there's
of my
no
old like
incentive to adopt it?
well, it's kind of like the Christopher Hitchens had like a great joke at one point in his special
Hmm.
because there's a passage somewhere where the Israelis were going to kill everyone in another tribe except like the young virgin women,
Yeah.
and they were going to take them. And he's like, okay, so you're going to kidnap a bunch of girls and marry them off. That's hardly something that's moral. And some bishop said something like, well, it didn't say that they were going to kidnap them for indecent purposes.
Oh yeah, there's neat
They were just going to
gardeners.
make them breakfast.
That's why I love the Malayan dialogues. Am I pronouncing that right? When Melanos was going to get dragged into the war between Athens and Sparta, I believe. And Athens said, look, join us or we're just going to conquer you. And they're like, hey, and they gave all these great moral arguments. We're not a threat. We're going to be neutral. You don't want to waste the troops. And then Athens kind of came back with, like, look, I'm not going to give you some moral speech about why we deserve to do this or why we should do this. We're strong. You're weak. And we're going to do it. And you're either going to go with it or we're going to take you down. It's like the strong do as they can and the weak suffer as they must. And it's kind of, I'd argue that's where we are now. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you look at it, a chick showing her asshole on OnlyFans is the strong doing as they can. And the simps that pay her $100 a month to see her asshole are the weak suffering as they must because they have no other options.
That's not very good. You should put that on a T-shirt.
The strong do as they can, the weak suffer as they must, and then a picture of like Goatsy and OnlyFans logo. Well, I mean, what is it if it's not that?
I think
That's the whole thing.
That's kind of where simping comes from. I think it's just like you have no other options than to simp for a girl and hope that she'll notice you because you're the best simp.
Yeah. And then all from our side, all we can really do is show guys how to have options.
And even then, they're kind of asking permission to simp. Is it okay if I send you $1,000?
Yeah, well, that's the thing with people without
Findom,
options. They have no idea how to act like.
Ever.
Yeah, of course it is. I don't get it. Like I saw there were some AEW wrestlers that had OnlyFans accounts, but for them it was literally for their fans. So it's no different than like a Patreon of that. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But yeah, the asshole stuff.
Oh, I know. I know a lot of people, but it's like no matter what social media platform you put up, girls are going to be selling nudes on there, and guys are going to be buying nudes on there.
That is true.
It's been happening on Facebook. It's with premium snaps. It's with Instagram. It's with everything.
I wouldn't be surprised. Isn't there TikToks? I remember there was somebody put on Twitter somebody's TikTok, and it was basically like them having sex on there with like a paid TikTok thing. Or I don't even know how it worked. It was just like every time somebody throws porn on Twitter, it always throws me off. I'm like, what the hell? You can do that? I can't say women are bad, but you can like rail one, whatever.
You can't say women are bad, but you can tie them up and beat them and post the pictures. What the hell?
Yeah. As long as it says follow me on Insta afterwards, I don't get it. Everything is so there's no. That's the other thing. There's no like unified set of rules. Reddit's a great example of that. The struggle hugging sub is still up, but the red pill is basically quarantined. You can have the where of all, or what's that one? The chicks that hate dudes. They just fucking rant on them. I don't know. That one's still up, but MGTOW is gone. Femcells is up, incels is gone. It's like there's never a consistent set of rules, and people who have no options keep looking for rules, asking permission. How do I act? Just show me the rule book, and there's no rule book. The rule book is if I can get away with it, I'm going to do it. So you need to kind of act accordingly. And that matters for everything. Your guru online is going to do what he can get away with. You got to act accordingly. Pat Stedman will Pat Stedman his rosé with ice because nobody's going to tell him otherwise. And you can listen to him if you want to, or you can not. Because he's going to get away with exactly what you let him get away with.
Funny thing, though, is that I do think Pat would do very well if he did like a wine channel.
Probably. He's got that effeminacy sommelier vibe to him. See, he reminds me of...
I think that's probably the best option, but in the end of it all, though, it's people need to get themselves to a point. Like I can respect MGTOW,
right,
or the Black Pill guys, just on the basis at least they made a fucking decision, and they're not asking anyone for permission.
Well, it depends. As soon as I put any, I just jab at it, and then all of a sudden they're sitting there asking me to, or demanding that I like validate their decision. But yeah, you're right. It's not permission, I guess.
Validating a decision is different from asking permission. If you validate someone's decision, that's just saying, yeah, I can see why you came to... Like, I can fully understand why Terrence Popp ended up doing, like, 7 years without chicks.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
After the shit he went through.
That was crazy.
I can totally get if some guy who prioritizes sex very low and relationships very low decides that, yeah, I'm not going to spend all this time chasing pussy. I can completely respect the decision to do that. I don't agree with it, and I don't think it's the right decision for a lot of guys, but I can totally get why some people would do it.
If that's the decision, though, I've noticed a lot of it, and that's the problem. There's like, MGTOW is kind of fractured in that there's guys that have done that. It's like, look, I've been screwed over. I can't handle this, or, you know, I just don't have a sex drive. I'm not into it. Then there's the guys that, again, the weak suffer as they must. Well, I'm going to go MGTOW because if I have to jerk off in my living room, at least I got my bros here with me. Those are the ones that I have the issue with because they're not making that decision. They're not making that choice. They're having the choice forced upon them. And so they're going to make 500 YouTube videos about how every celebrity woman that they know sucks. It's like it's sour
Yeah, but
grapes.
that's also kind of like making your necessity a virtue.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
In the same way that, the guy who only got one girl to sleep with him and married her,
Mm-hmm.
then wants to lift up, yeah, I'm living and doing the Lord's work. I'm sticking with my marriage, even if I have less sex than the guy who's big cow and goes to Cancun once a year.
Oh, we're going to be talking about that one next week. That's going to be so much fun. If you guys don't know, we're doing like a super Christopher Hitchens special kind of anti-religion one. You're going to love it.
Yeah, we should have Tom on there as the Christian representative.
Oh, yeah, I guess we could. I don't know, Tom. We'll talk offline. It'll be kind of fun. Because we're going to go, I think it's, what's it, Mormons and Islam. The big ones, evangelicals, and I guess I could be the Baptist representative. My grandfather was a preacher after all.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I'm being the evangelical representative on that one.
Jesus, who's this
Kind
Kev
of weird though
Samuels
how
guy?
many.
I'm listening.
Yeah, he's some guy who does shows I know he's done shows with what's his name, Donovan. He's like a close dude, I think, a fashion some type of thing.
Oh, okay, I see him. He looks like that guy that was like those stupid dressing reality shows. Looks like that guy. Well, he's got a nice suit taste anyway. A little bit zoot suity, but whatever. Who am I to judge? Yeah, I'll never get into
Oh, yeah,
that
pull
grift.
it
I
off.
don't have that preacher vibe to me.
You could go for it though. I mean, you had a grandfather there who was good at it, so maybe you could work on it.
Yeah, I could. Well, that's the thing. I could. I know this isn't going to last forever. The red pill thing, it'll come and it'll go. Pickup came and pickup went. It kind of kept niche. I have no expectations that in 3 years, you and me and Rolo and everybody else will be doing something else. I'm pretty sure of that. You can either call it growth or a pivot or a switch, or maybe, like you said, the loonies have taken over the asylum and we're like, you know what? Keep it. We're going to move off. We're not going to talk about colors or pills anymore.
Well, it's
Make
kind of
it the
like what
Man
happened
Show
with the
2.0. I
Reddit
don't
a
know.
while back.
Hmm.
Well, you know what happened with the Reddit a while back? Like every good content creator more or less bailed off there.
Yeah. And all it took was just like a
Like back
couple
20
spurgs to make it. It wasn't fun anymore. If I'm going to go on here just to have you and a bunch of teenagers like shitting all over me, why the fuck am I going to show up? That's all it took.
And I'm not sure what the Archwinger's doing now.
Oh, I haven't. He's 4 years. I'm wondering. I actually would love to find out. Fly on the wall. A lot of the old content creators. Like, is his marriage better? Are they divorced? Was it all just LARPing and he didn't believe any of it? He's always one of those things. He's very curious.
But it's kind of what happens with this space. It's always kind of developing. Like back when in the pickup days, it was like no lifting, no diet shit. Now it's all kinds of self-improvement involved with it.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how it morphs again, because like you said offline last week, I think it's just a bunch of Gen Xers or like early millennials pulling the train as they go along through life. And it's at some point, we have some new guys now who are young, who are like late millennials,
Mm-hmm.
who are kind of working their way up to being the next generation of content creators. They're the guys who are currently doing like looks, money, status type shit and doing the basic game advice. And then
I don't remember that. You wrote it down
10
30
years.
times in your post.
What looks money game?
Yeah. In your last essay.
Oh yeah, that was actually annoyed me so much to write it. I had to do like the whole thing in rhyme to keep my ADHD interesting, and only like 2 guys caught it.
I was one. Credit there. Anyways, I cut you off though. You were in the middle of a point. Did I make you lose track?
Well, I'll keep going. So you'll have that morph because right now you have like a 5, 6, maybe 10 guys who've had major footprints or kind of controlling the way we've developed, and then next generation are probably going to have their Heartiste, they're going to have their Roosh, they're probably going to have their Rolo, and then they'll kind of get their own spin on it, just building on whatever we did,
Mm-hmm.
and who knows which way that's going to go.
which I
So it's
find it
going to be
curious.
interesting to see, though.
Yeah,
It's just
because
a matter of like you want to leave the space better than you found it, I guess.
yeah, well, Gen Xers, I mean, for them, just simple things. They came from a generation where you were still writing, like you bring a pencil with you to the bar. Like, when was the last time you brought a pencil or a pen to the bar? Have you ever? I think I used to do that very, very beginning of when I started, like to go to college and that. There was like a 2 year period before crazers became a thing. But then they were at the point that cell phones at the bar was a weird thing. Now we're at the point where like, is this girl hitting on me or is she marketing me and trying to get me to go to her OnlyFans? And I'm gonna be it's gonna be so fascinating to see how that plays out because there's gonna be a lot more incels. Obviously, the guys who figure it out and adapt are just gonna be swimming in poon, and the rest of them are gonna be simping hard, and they're gonna be very angry and very bitter.
What's going to be normalized though? I think that's the interesting thing because like when I came up, like you didn't have all the social media thing. I think I got a cell phone a couple of years before I started doing pickup,
Yeah.
but it was because I'm a few years younger than you. So like I've had a cell phone for most of my life. But back in the day, like you had to bring the pen. Asking someone for their number was expected. Now, when I did that, I jumped back in the market a couple of years ago. And suddenly asking for someone's number was too personal, but you can get their Instagram or their Snapchat or whatever.
Oh yeah, the QR code. I'm like, what
And
the hell kind of close is this?
what's going to be the next one is going to be like, yeah, check out my OnlyFans. Just slide into my DMs.
Dude, it's going to
And
be
how
so
normal is
weird.
it going to be for girls to have OnlyFans? Is everyone just going to have one?
I bet you most girls will. I bet you the trick is going to be how to get an OnlyFans and hide that from the kind of guy you want to settle down with. Or, yeah, what do you think will win out? Girls being better at deception or guys being better at normalizing it to the point where, she has an OnlyFans, but it's only like 1,000 followers, dude. It's not like she's one of those 10,000 follower hoes, which is
Yeah,
going
I
to be
think
the
it's just
funniest
gonna. I think it's
conversation
gonna be
ever, by the way.
exactly that.
You think so?
Because like if you let's say in a world where all girls are hosts,
Yeah.
it's going to be like, yeah, she's a good girl because she only does topless OnlyFans. Oh no, she only does boudoir shoots. She doesn't do anything nasty. What? What? You're gonna wife up a hoe that showed her asshole? What the hell?
Yeah. Dude, I'm only into girls
I
that do
think it's gonna
lesbian
turn.
scenes. I'm a moral guy.
I think it's going to normalize the idea. I think it's going to normalize sex work in a whole new way because a lot more girls are going to be engaging in sex work.
Mm-hmm.
At least, like, as a partial way of financing their life.
And I know there's going to be a bunch of dudes in the chat saying, "Oh, dude, no way, I'll fight against that tooth and nail." But you know what? Gen Xers used to say, "I am never bringing a cell phone to the bar. I'm supposed to be talking to people." They said the same thing, and look how that argument ended out. Something to think about. Imagine
But I
guys,
think
and
it's
that's
just a
what like
matter of.
guys now, the millennials have, where it's like, I'm not going to have a social media following there. That's stupid. Girls should have to talk to me face to face. It's like, nah, dude. You're just getting left behind. You're not adapting.
And I just think that's going to be the normal thing. And in the end, I think we're going to be taken over by the fucking Amish. Because you're going to be taken. Well, I think you're going to be slowly taken over by strong insular cultures.
I don't think so, though. Like they said that same thing about Islam. But what happened there is Islam just went degenerate like hyperspeed. They got chicks at the Royal
That's a
Guard
good point.
now. Chicks are driving. That was quick. They were only integrated with the West from like the mid 2000s. And already now they got like transvestite Muslims talking shit about the royal princes and shit like that. I think in another five
And I
years
mean,
you're
it's
gonna watch
really,
some
and
weird stuff coming out of there.
I always thought it was kind of funny when like three of the like I think it was two or three of like the top five Johnny Walker accounts
Yeah.
was like Saddam Hussein, the Saudis, and I think the Iran priesthood.
Yeah.
And I think with some that's why I think it's always kind of been like this. I think it's just becoming very fucking apparent to us now because of social media and how easy it is to transmit information.
So thottery's not getting worse;
Because
it's just getting filmed.
yeah, exactly, and degeneracy is just being filmed and is very apparent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go into the history books, like you're not going to see a lot of mentions of those specific things. The only place you're going to see it, like take something like the Scarlet Letter, like that old, it's Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Yeah.
Like she had a child out of wedlock and she had an A painted on her. But if all the girls had A's on them, then everyone's Spartacus. And and if your only options are hoes, then you're going to go for like the least hoish. That's going to be the new 10.
Yep.
And then you're always going to have the guys who are like, no, I'm not going to date any girl who has an OnlyFans. But if they have to pick between, marrying a girl with an OnlyFans and not having sex ever, most men are going to go with the chick with the OnlyFans. It's just
I
kind of
would say
common
it's even
sense.
worse than that. They're not going to go for the chick with the OnlyFans. They're going to go for the chick who's pathological enough to hide her OnlyFans. Those are the girls they're going to go for, and those guys are going to get screwed over. They're actively selecting for deception. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so what you're saying, yeah, some guy said that about spiders once. I kill all the spiders in my house when I see them, wondering if I'm breeding like a race of ninja spiders.
That's a good way of putting it. I can get with that.
And I
Ninja
think it's
spiders.
because there's because there's always been like jokes about the lady who fucked the stable boy at
Yeah.
night, or all those things.
Right.
And I think that's just going to be reality, where all girls are hoes for the right guy or guys, or for the right price.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I told this joke on the show before, but there was this old rich dude. He went to a restaurant
Mm-hmm.
and he sees this beautiful girl sitting alone at a table. So he gets the waiter to come over and he says, and he writes on a note, "Would you sleep with me for $1 million?" And he sends it over to her. And she writes an enthusiastic yes under it. Then he sends another note, "Would you sleep with me for $1?" He sends it over to her. And she says, "No, what kind of girl do you think I am?" So he writes on the note, "I already know what kind of girl you are. Now we're just haggling."
I want to say that was Churchill, but I could be wrong. Everything is always a trope to Churchill. Nick here. I think Nick is
I have no
catching on
idea.
too on this with the something like Facebook, and everybody has a private area. And I think this is kind of something that has to happen because we don't have privacy anymore with social media. And I think we're going to have some kind of sandboxing of our online life if we're going to have any kind of normalcy, especially with the way cancel culture and that is.
Oh yeah, because we're like the internet used to be like the last vestige of free speech, because you
Mm-hmm.
used to be able to say anything on the
Right.
internet and make fun of anything. But Reddit even quarantined like the dark humor meme sub.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, they've banned one of our moderators for like a month for something he had said in mod mail, which was absolutely freaky.
Oof.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately people want to have a degree of privacy.
Right.
At least we do. But
Everyone
I'm kind of
does.
wondering what's going to happen with the generation that grows up having Instagram, having Facebook, etc., from the age where they're like 5.
So I think they're going to figure out some way of carving privacy out of it. Like some version of I can drop a hard R N bomb, but I can only do it in my house with just my kids and my wife there. There's going to be some kind of online version of all in the family that way. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how it's going to be developed. And I don't know what incentives companies are going to have to do it. Maybe it's just the case of like 8 billion people is too many people to monitor. And so companies finally realize it's just cheaper and easier to not. Who knows?
Yeah, plus in the end, what's going to happen if you have a million Karens and a million people dropping hard R's coexisting in the same platform? That's going to be bedlam.
Yeah. Well, how much anger? How angry can you get until you eventually just burn out? That's the question. Like, is this peak Karen
Well,
we
that's
have
kind
right
of
now
where
that
I
they've taken over a TikTok?
that could be. I mean, it's kind of like the way I got with people on my Twitter. It's like in the beginning, I used to argue with them and I used to try and convince them and I used to talk to them. Now it's for the most part, it's just like mute or
Yeah.
block and delete. That could also be a thing. So I just think we might end up building these like insular communities where we ban everyone who disagrees with us, and you get this echo chamber that we already have magnified.
Yeah. Which, where are we going that way? Heck, that's what I do now. Yeah, I have no problems chatting with people, but as soon as like something on Twitter turns into somebody telling me I'm wrong and then a bunch of things that had nothing to do with what I said, I just mute. I'm like, whatever, free engagement. Guys in my chat will argue
Yeah,
with
like
them.
whenever,
Now it looks like my posts are blowing up, but in reality, it's just that there's a bunch of idiots yelling that I used to block, and now I just let them run their mouth.
yeah, like whenever someone responds to a tweet I sent with like "why Carl is wrong," a thread, it's like, okay, the autism here is hitting 11. It's gone.
Yeah. Mute mentions, mute the thing. I still love the one.
And
That's my favorite one. The reading increases IQ the same way weightlifting increases height. Dude, this one guy just lost his mind. He's telling me not to read. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, whatever, stick around. It's not like I don't have guys that follow me around like Trump now, just shitting on everything I say. Whatever. Comes with the
well, I do think
territory.
that. Well, that's kind of my favorite part of the internet, though. Like the people have been trolling Trump whenever he says something about Hunter Biden. They post like some shit his kids did.
Yeah.
It's like Hunter Biden was exploiting his father's position to enrich himself, and it's like picture of Eric Trump. Your son siphoned millions from kids with cancer to your business.
Those ones are, at least those ones I don't mind. They're pointing out hypocrisy. It's the ones that will just be like some random meme that had nothing to do with nothing. They were just waiting for an excuse to start yelling at the clouds.
Oh,
Those
the
are the ones
glow
I'm always
approach.
like, and they're always at the top for some reason, the top of all of these posts.
Well,
Like I,
for me, it's just clout chasing to some extent.
oh, 100%. That's the other reason I have a problem with it is because do they actually dislike the opinion? Do they actually hate it? Or is it just, hey, can I have some of them followers? And you got to wonder, like, how many of these arguments are real? Like, I'll use Rolo as an example again. How much of these guys actually don't like what Rolo's saying? How many guys actually hate his message? Versus how many guys just want their book to raise a couple points in the Amazon bookstore?
I kind of like the tweet you put out. Like, need content, don't want to create anything, don't want to write anything, just shit on Rolo.
Shit on Rolo and getting invited. Yeah, well, there's another one I put that was kind of made me think about this. Like, how would the relationships on social media change if the people who had 10,000 followers got 100,000 and the people with 100,000 ended up with 10,000? Maybe it's a bit highbrow, but it always made me wonder, it's like how many people all of a sudden would start having problems with different people and changing their opinions. And it makes me
Well,
wonder,
I always
is
had
it
like
like an
this.
asking for permission thing?
It could be.
Yeah.
It's
I
that
have the
once you
opinion
get
of the
to a
guy I
certain
want the clout
size,
from.
yeah, that's one. Or it's also the like I'm the rap game approach where
Uh-huh.
you create controversy and you beef with people just to get eyes on your shit.
Yeah.
Like you pick a big account and you start beefing with them, and you're in all of their mentions just to make sure that you get eyes on your shit. There's a certain ninja assassin we know that used to do that with another guy.
Ninja Assassin. Greatest movie, worst content creator. Yeah, but that's the for me, like if I call somebody a fucking idiot, pretty certain that I mean it. I don't do the clout thing. I'm like, whatever, I can build clout on my own. But that's just it. Everybody can. Rich even pointed out after years, like, you see how easy it is to build a brand? I'm like, yeah. He goes, so you see why you don't need to have like stupid clout chasing bullshit like this? And I'm like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. So I'd almost argue that those guys are the
And I
ones that
think,
can't do content any other way, or they're just too much of in a rush.
oh, there's also the aspect of why do you want people to follow your content? Is it because you create good content? Or do you want them to follow you because, like, let's see what this crazy fucker is going to do next?
The
It's kind
lol
of like the
cow.
Jackass thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do you watch Jackass? You want to see a bunch of guys drunk and high off out of their minds do stupid shit.
Yeah, nut shots. More nut shots. Let's go.
Like, if Johnny Knoxville suddenly started writing essays on philosophy, people wouldn't read his essays. They'd be like, Johnny, you should get shot with a paintball gun again.
Remember that Simpsons episode where Bart had that catchphrase, the "I didn't do it," and he went on Conan O'Brien, and he was trying to talk with
Oh
him
yeah.
eloquent about something, and Conan's like, "Just say the line, kid." I didn't do it. I would hate, and that's the other thing. I hate that because when you're in that clout, like the guys that shit on Trump and they're kind of known for being professional Trump haters. What else do you do? What happens when Trump leaves office? Like, what do you do with the rest of your life? That's what you're known for. You're a one-trick pony. You're a one-note thing. What happens when?
Probably
And this
pivot
is
to
something for
something
you guys
else.
to think about too, like from your own personalized perspectives. If you start going one note because you see like an easy path to success, what happens when the landscape changes and you have to adapt? Like, what is AGJ gonna do if he can't shit on Rolo all day as his business plan? What are the guys that want to go to his convention gonna do when they find out that I can't just shit Rolo to get an invite to a an Orlando convention, an unpaid internship? Not very long term
I
thinking.
gotta, like, I have to ask though, is that the case where practical actions have kind of taken too much of an extreme? Because
Of
I'm a big
course.
fan of practical actions and actually doing work, but if you're doing stupid shit all the time and your actions are actually destructive rather than constructive or data building,
Yeah.
should you stop doing shit for a while? Maybe some cases you should ask permission. Like if you're stuck with money and you're spending left and right,
Mm-hmm.
like you have 8 cars but you live next to a subway station and you don't have a driver's license, at that point, should your money be managed by someone else? Probably.
Good point.
It's
Ooh, here's a good one
let's
too.
see.
Didn't we trash RSD for making a pivot? Living under a bridge ain't a good time. Yeah, we did. But in all fairness, his pivot was trash. Like just the fact that you're trying to expand or do other things doesn't automatically get you a pass. Like you, case in point, Rus adapted. Pickup in Ukraine is done, so I'm going to pivot to be the Unabomber. Yeah, he adapted, but that's not really what we're talking about here. And I would argue RSD talking about flowers and hippies and an hour of talking nothing on his podcast, probably not different anyway. Mark Manson, you can make the
I have
case,
no
did
idea
it
what
fairly
RSD
well.
is doing right now.
I don't know. I every now and then I'll see one of his things, and it's just literally him walking around in like the California hills, using words to fill as much time as possible to pad his runtime, and it makes no sense.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
I don't
literally
mind guys
nothing.
pivoting. Like the big thing though with like I hate disingenuous pivots.
I think yeah, the
And
disingenuous,
I
short term, and like bad pivots. Yeah, for sure.
and I don't really like the whole idea where you use some kind of community as a stepping stone and you kind of wreck it. Like the guys who pivoted politics in 2016 and brought all these fucking conservative conspiracy nuts back into the manosphere. Like we had enough conspiracy nuts here to begin with. We don't need the rest of them.
Right.
So I think that was ultimately destructive.
Oh, ultimately. The politics.
And
What
like if
what do you think
Rolo
has been
wants to
worse though? The
pivot in a year
politics
or
or the
two,
conspiracy theories?
bro,
Although I guess they're kind of
for
almost
me
the
the
same thing.
politics because conspiracy theories are at least entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love Alex Jones for that reason. It's like there are chemicals in the water that are turning frogs gay, chemtrails, and all that shit.
Yeah, yeah.
That was hilarious to me. Like one of my favorite shows is Ancient Aliens, just because I love that type of conspiracy shit.
I only know it from the
I think
meme.
it's a fun. I think it's a fun intellectual exercise.
Mm-hmm.
But the main issue I had with the politics is it's a distraction, and to pivot into what we're going to be talking about for 2 fucking hours later today, the JVP crowd. I'm a big fan of the clean your room rule. Like, deal with your own shit before you start getting involved with everything else.
Yeah.
And I think politics is the antithesis of that. Like, okay, yeah, I'm not lifting, I'm not hitting on girls, I'm not getting in shape, I'm not focusing on making money, but I'm helping to make America great again. Yeah, how exactly?
So I love.
It's
There's
kind of like
never
feminism.
details.
Well, it's kind of like feminism. It's like we want the full equivalent for women in the social, political, economic, etc., and social sphere, something like that. It's like, okay, economic, you can kind of work out, right? It's
Yeah.
just, okay, the wealth is controlled equally, you have equal pay. Politics, you can kind of control in the sense that, okay, everyone has a right to vote, but how do you equalize someone socially? It's
It's
just
just words, man.
not going to be possible because there are no like hard metrics.
But I think you're looking at it too literally.
And
I don't think it's that at all. It's not. What it is people are sharpening sticks, and they want to stab people with it to get their way. And in this case, saying equality for women is that stick to sharpen. So that way, when I want to do an OnlyFans account without getting shamed at my office the next day, there's that stick. Jab. It's an equality thing. It has nothing to do with equality. A guy can't show his asshole on OnlyFans and then go into work. First off, nobody will pay to see it. Secondly, everybody at work's going to make fun of him. And thirdly, nobody's going to run a news story that evening saying how downtrodden he is. There's nothing to do with equality. It's just a stick, just a shiv to stab everybody in your way. That's why I'd argue it's not even that feminism is a shit test. I think it's feminism is a tactic. How can I nag the most amount of people to get the most shit I want? And that's why sex positive feminists, TERFs, the LGBT side of things, like it's all over the place. It all contradicts everything else, but the only consistent thing there is chicks want more shit. It's just a tactic.
that's a fair point. Yeah, they want less accountability and more shit for free.
Yeah, and not asking for permission to do it either. So it's a lesson that guys could learn. We need to become better feminists for men. Give it. Give me it.
Yeah, like Paul Elam style feminism. Please, feminists, is it okay if I get equal rights too?
No, shut up. All right, fine. It's Rolo's
Then
fault.
then we can green screen in a bar behind you.
God, I
We'll
hate
green
that guy.
screen in a face on me.
I would love. It's a bad idea, but I would love to like some kind of charity boxing match. I'll learn to box. I don't even care if I lose to Paul Elam. I'd never live it down, but at least it'll be worth getting in the shot.
That would be funny.
Imagine losing a fight to Paul Elam for money.
I would love like Rouge versus Paul Elam.
Ooh, that would be a good one. I would pay to see that. All right, I guess we should end this one up. Half an hour is coming up, and I got to have some quick breakfast here and send everybody some links in that. Any closing thoughts before I end this off?
Yeah, stop asking for permission.
Couldn't put it any better. All right, guys, stick
Do whatever
around.
you want. Just
Oh, what he said?
no, I was just gonna say you can do whatever you want as long as you're willing to suffer the consequences.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, guys, so stick around. Rule 0, this channel, 25 minutes. Gonna have some new guys on there, and we're talking about the rebirth of Jordan Peterson. And until then, I'll catch you on the next one. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do my outro. Look at this. 22 seconds, Carl.
Slightly less gay.
I liked it. Yeah, blue. It's very passive in that. Although I gotta fix. Oh, that's
It's the color.
no. I know what it is. It's this. StreamYard's not exactly the most straightforward thing to use. All right, let's end this one.